today from a TSL point of view?
Yeah, it is. I think there's still a bit of stuff to go to see what it ends up looking like, but I think it's a common sense decision to keep the TSL. I often say to people, I sometimes think people around here don't understand what a good thing they've got in the TSL in terms of, having been in the SANFL before. When you come down here and you see the newspaper and the TV and the interest on social media, like, it's a really vibrant state league, even though it has had some issues. But overall, there's good interest, there's great media coverage, it's good football. It's a real asset to Tassie footy, and it would have been a tragedy if it was lost.
Is it something that the players have spoken about in the locker room, I suppose, over the past 6 or so weeks? Will we or won't we have a top-tier competition to play in, or is it, really in the back of the minds of the players?
I haven't heard too much chatter about it, and we've tried not to talk about it too much because, there's been so many different versions of events coming out, and different sides and flip-flopping of what might happen, and you don't know how much of it's credible and how much of it is Chinese whispers. So, when we've had meetings, when our presidents had a meeting with the steering committee, or we as coaches had a meeting with Marcus Ashcroft, we kept the players updated on the stuff that we could take out of those meetings. But apart from that, we've just concentrated on footy.
Last weekend, mate, obviously you must be quite stoked with that result. You managed to not only get up but keep them to 28 points, which is something no other side's been able to do this year. What did you attribute that to?
I think, it probably originates back to when we played them the first time, and it just exposed a couple of little things in the way we're going about our footy, and in terms of our consistency and consistency of hardness. And in the second half of that game, they really showed us up in those areas. And again, the Lauderdale game a couple of weeks later, just some similar stuff popped up. So we've been working hard on a couple of different things for 6 or 7 weeks. The 2 games prior to that with the Tigers and North Hobart, we'd seen good progress. But it was pleasing to come out against a really good team and show those things and show that consistency. And I think even in the second half, when we weren't able to really roll over the top, we still had that real consistency of discipline and hardness and sticking to the way we wanted to play footy, and that enabled us to shut the game down really well. So it was good, but I said to the guys after the game, if we don't roll out next week against Launceston and produce the same level of consistency and discipline, then we're still, we take a backward step and we've still got work to do. So I think this week is a really good test because Lonnie are going to throw everything at us. They've lost a few in a row, and it's a big game for them. So we'll see how far we've come.
So you want him to play anyway, but not have to worry about him, I guess. Is that a bonus for you?
Yeah, I guess so. And what a great player and a great career, and it's a bit sad that it ends the way it does. It's always, I think, Josh Arnold always looks forward to going up against Sonny, and so that's been a good matchup for a while now, from what I understand. So yeah, look, I just sort of salute him for a really good career, and such a dangerous player for a long time.
That doesn't make them much less dangerous up forward because they have so many options.
Yeah, you look through their team list, and the talent is there. There's no doubt about it, and it's one of those where form is a very fleeting thing. I don't really even believe in form because what happens in the first 5 or 10 minutes of a game can completely change form. So much of it is mental. So for them, they could come out, get off to a quick start, and then all of a sudden that talent starts to click together. Those moments build on each other, and they start playing the footy that they're capable of, and the footy they showed earlier in the year. So we don't go in thinking that they're a lesser team than the one we faced up at Launceston earlier in the season. We're going to have to play well to win.
Does the Tigers win over them give you more confidence, or do you think that just makes them even more dangerous?
Yeah, I think it makes them more dangerous. It puts them in a situation now where their backs are to the wall. I think, had they won against the Tigers, then you can get that sense of, we're back on track. Whereas now they're going to really, in terms of where they want to finish the season, they're going to come out really strong this week. Having said that, if you think about where Launceston were at this time last year, no one was expecting much of them, and they built really well in the second half of the year and went close to making the grand final. So I wouldn't be writing Launceston off yet. They're certainly going to be a factor later in the year.
Is there a little bit of renewed life in the competition now, I suppose, that North Launceston beaten by Clarence. So you guys beat Clarence, Launceston fall away a bit. Lauderdale are playing pretty good footy. I think everyone had North Launceston almost winning the flag about 6 weeks ago.
I think externally, I mean, at Glenorchy we never thought of it that way. We realised that there was a number of different teams that were a challenge, and the Tigers are a challenge too, and they have been both times that we've played them. So, you know, I said to Brez the other day, like, there aren't many free swings in this competition. You take what was a pretty competitive league last year, you take out the 2 bottom teams, it just makes it tougher. You know, there is tough games week after week after week where you have to turn up and play well. And you know, we won 4 in a row and then we lost 4 in a row. And the difference between that wasn't huge. It was that little bit of consistency in games that cost us. And when you play against good teams, those moments kill you. You know, you give them a sniff. You know, like when we played Lauderdale and we kicked 2-6 and 2 out in the full in the first quarter, that killed us. Because later in the game when they get on top, all of a sudden they build momentum and we don't have the buffer that we should have. So, yeah, it's a great comp. I really enjoy being a part of it. Our players now have got a good understanding of just how on and consistent we have to beat these good teams.
Anyone unavailable for selection this week, mate?
Jack Stevenson is with the under-17s, and we'll miss Jack. You know, he's been tremendous for us. You know, for a skinny 17-year-old, he's as hard as nails. He puts his body in, and so we're really enjoying his development for a kid who hadn't played senior footy before this year, and even his first couple of games was just, you know, finding his way, and now he's become a really valuable part of our team. So we'll miss him, but apart from that, everyone from last week's available.
Anybody back?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. How do you rate your back line? They kept Clarence only a few goals last week, and they were just phenomenal in terms of intercept marks and just shutting it all down. How do you rate them compared to others?
I won't compare them to others, but I really like our back line, and they've been good most of the year. And I think even in games where we've given up a few more goals, a lot of it has come from things that have happened further up the field. You know, the back line hasn't been perfect, but for the most part, they've done their job really well. And obviously, you know, Daniel Joseph gets a lot of the headlines, and so he should, because he's a fantastic player. And he's really been back to his best the last 2 weeks. And Josh Arnold is, I think any coach would like to have Josh Arnold. He's so dependable and such a great leader back there. Harrison Gunther, for me, you know, we're really hoping you know, he's had some AFL interest this year again, and we really hope that he can make that step, because, you know, we marvel at what he does as a 19-year-old. He's a great leader down there in the back line. For a guy who's played mostly forward line across his junior career, his ability to read the play, to back himself, to use the ball incredibly well out of the back line and set us up, and then be a leader for the other young guys in our back line, because we do have a lot of young blokes in that back 7. So he's been just a pleasure to coach this year, and yeah, hopefully he can keep that going through the second half of the year.
What do you make of today's announcement, Brownie? The competition's here to stay.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing. I still think we've got a lot of issues down lower too that need attention. So, lucky enough to actually have a meeting with Carl Saunders about an hour ago, and we were discussing that I think at the under-16s last year there was 24 in the competition, and this year there's only 12. So that's another thing we've got to look at, not just the TSL, but the whole state as a board really needs an overhaul that hopefully we can fix quickly.
Big test this weekend. Hopefully a better performance than last time you were up there.
Yeah, I think we certainly go in. We're actually up and about at the moment, to use one of Whitney's cliches. We had a lot of guys at the start of the year that weren't familiar with what we were trying to do. We've now got a lot of continuity amongst the group, and we're definitely playing some good footy. Last 2 weeks we've been very patchy. Prior to that, against Launceston and Glenorchy, we were able to string 4 quarters together and really show what we're capable of doing, and that's certainly what we need to do this week against North Mining. Otherwise, well, we've seen what happens up there if we don't.
How concerning is it the finish to your games at the moment?
Well, against the better teams, or the teams that are above us on the ladder, we actually have finished quite well. The last 2 weeks have been pretty disappointing. We've got the job done early, but you know, given where we're sitting on the ladder and our percentage, we needed to have big wins, and we didn't do that, and that was a bit of a concern.
Changes?
Phil Bill Chambers comes back from suspension, so he will be a nice inclusion, and Oscar Shaw is away with the under-17 state team, so that's the only one at the moment that's forced.
without giving away your secrets, what changes this weekend compared to other times you've met North Lonnie? I mean, you could say that really had the mocker over you guys. What needs to change so that they do not overrun you again?
Yeah, they're a hard one to combat up there. They play the space really well, North Launceston, and that's one thing that we probably haven't worked well to our advantage in the past. We've probably followed the footy around a little bit and not been more observant on what they're doing off the ball. And if you watch the vision that we're able to look at during the week, they work really hard when the ball is not in their area, and that's something that we have to shut down. And you know, we've trained really well this week to do that, so it's just a matter of going out and executing it on Saturday. And it's the last 3 times we've been up there, we've been belted every time. So we know that, and I don't think the boys are really concerned with that. We're just looking at this week, and we've gone through some things in the last 6 months to say, you know, look how far we've come. You know, from the grand final side last year to the first 6 rounds where we had a completely different side, and now we're starting to see the positives of what we've included in the team.
You've got a lot of Northwest experience. Do you think there's an appetite for a TSL club up there in the future?
I hope so. I think you know, Burnie and Devonport certainly add a lot to the TSL, and Northwest Coast provides so many talented footballers up there, and it would just be a waste to not have them playing in a statewide competition. And you know, the travel's always a concern. I know when I played my early days up at Burnie, the Hobart trips were fantastic, and you know, there's a lot of rules and regulations now what you can and can't do on the bus coming back. But you know, they were great times, and it was a good experience to get to know the guys, and it would just be a waste if they didn't get to do that. But there's a lot of things that work against, and the travel's the main thing, and I don't know how we can make that work. I thought the initial setup with the travelling outside of your region 3 times a year was a good thing. I don't know how we go back to that. It's so many different things, that pros and cons for everything. It is pretty hard given that the geographic of the state and the way it's all set up. But I definitely would like to see Burnie and Devonport back in the TSL at some stage.
Excited about today's press conference than you have been the last however many. You notice a little spring in your step.
Oh, the week just changes for you, you know, Monday morning or even Sunday, you'll wake up and you're happy and the sun's shining, even if it's raining. But yeah, it just makes the week go easier. Like, just really pleased for the playing group as a whole for the work that they've been putting in, the improvement that they've shown over the last month. To get a win and start to feel that, I think it was really important that we got that reward for that effort and, you know, the way that we have been playing, which has been pretty good over the last month.
If you're being honest, how badly did the club need that win?
Oh, we would have gone on and moved on to the next one if we didn't win. It was the fact of the 4-quarter performance as well. So, and it just shows the guys, if you get those, you know, it's always off, or an overused word probably is effort, but if you do get that right for the whole 120 minutes, then you will get the results. You know, we had 90 tackles, which was our highest for the year, you know, so cut down their marks in space, those sorts of defensive things. You know, probably early we concentrated a bit on offence, but over the last month, it's all been about defence, so which has taken care of some offence as well.
Guess you've got to put it behind you quickly, mate, to move on to the Roos. It's a pretty big test for you. Yeah,
absolutely. We put it to bed Monday night after we reviewed. We reviewed the game pretty hardly in that we looked at the things that we did really well, but there still were a lot of room for improvement areas, especially, you know, having that learning how to close games out, which I think we did an okay job of, but we want to get better at, being, you know, a bit more ruthless. So, yeah, we reviewed it, put it to bed Monday night after that, and had a really good, our main session was really good last night, and our focus is on this weekend.
Johnson and Davey straight back in, I imagine?
Yep. So Bailey Gordon will go out. He's in the state 17s, which is fantastic for Bailey. He's been really good for us since we brought him in. Since the North Launceston game, he's played every senior game. Yeah, he goes out. Johnson and Davey straight in. So unfortunately, there's someone who's going to be unlucky who played in the win on Saturday who'll miss out, but we'll deal with that tonight.
It was a long time between drinks. Do you think you can get another win before the season is out?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I think I've said before, we go in every week with a plan to win, and we try to win. And you know, that's why you turn up. That's why you play. So you know, yeah, we're searching for another win. We don't just want it to be one more. You know, 2, 3, 4 more, whatever that is. But if we bring the right mindset, we bring the right effort, and do the things that we've been doing right during the week, more importantly, than what we do on Saturday as well, we will see some more before the end of the year.
Do you reckon last week's effort and commitment is capable of beating Clarence this week if you can replicate?
I think it's capable of beating anyone. So I think we've shown, you know, we pushed North Lonnie up there for a 15, 20-minute stretch in the last quarter. You know, we've had 2 great tussles with Glenorchy and Lauderdale as well. So, you know, if you bring that every week, it's not rocket science. You know, it wasn't about tactics or anything like that we did. It was just sheer grit and grinding the game out on Saturday. And if you bring that every week, you can do some damage.
Satisfying knowing that you could do it without the likes of Davies and Matthews as well.
Yeah, it was fantastic to see the boys step up as a collective. It was, yeah, real even effort across the board. It was probably hard to do the best players at the end of the game, like all the coaches remarked how even it was. There was no real standout in terms of, you know, kicks, marks, handballs. It was just, yeah, even across the board, but more so with defensive actions.
I've got the Tigers this week. They're in form. You guys bouncing off a lot. How do you see the contest?
To be on, won't it? They played extremely well down at the Twins last week in pretty poor conditions, but I think their last 5 weeks has been really good, so we need to be up for the fight this week.
Yeah. Well, having reviewed the tape, what did you see that they did well that you guys will be extra wary about?
I thought at the start of the year they probably lacked a little bit of pressure around the ball, but they seem to have brought more numbers to the contest and I suppose opened their forward line up a little bit, which is what they've done probably all year, but they've got some different options up there. Obviously Marcus back this week and Carter's playing down there as well. Is, you know, a different player down there, one you got to watch, and you know, Eddie Burrows, those sort of guys down there makes them a little bit more dangerous, but I think their ability to hunt the ball around the contest over the last 5 weeks has been a lot better than what it was at the start of the year.
And your review of last week's game, what came out of that you'll be trying to change this week?
Oh, a lot of things, but it's a bit like the spilled milk stuff, isn't it? You know, you can cry about it, but just clean it up and move on. So we did that on Monday night, and look, there was a fair bit to take out of the tape. But look, I think the key, you know, foundation of everyone's plan is effort and intensity, and that just wasn't there on the weekend, which is probably the milk, if you draw that parallel.
Were you worried going in? Obviously, wonderful win the week before. You often see a drop off, I suppose. Did you speak about that much in the lead up to the game?
Oh, we did. It was funny. I was just chatting to PK before about sometimes you can sense it during the week, and then you try and put things in place to fix it. But ultimately, it just comes down to the individual. You know, obviously, we did. You know, our preparation was the same. We did everything the same during the week, pre-game. Just didn't have a good game. Sometimes you can get beaten, but I suppose for us it was the way we got beaten. It's unacceptable, so we need to move on to this week.
You said you sensed a bit of a downer in the group leading up to the game. Have you sensed the opposite this week?
Yep. Yeah, no, they trained extremely well on Tuesday night, so it'll be the same tonight. We had a pretty open and honest discussion Monday and we started training on Tuesday, so we're hoping to put that to bed and bounce back this week.
Troy Cunliffe, Ryan Bailey, 2 guys that have come up from the SFL, 2 of your better players this year. Is that something Clarence might do more in the future, look to the SFL or other clubs should do to try and find some of those gems?
Yeah, we've done it in the past. Obviously we had Mastrocola and Fisher last year, so those 2 guys were pretty good for us as well. So it has been successful for us the last couple of years. You know, Cummins has been fantastic, and throw Fletcher Seymour in there as well, both under 25. So hopefully they can become, you know, 150 life membership players for the Clarence Footy Club.
I mean, you never want to lose, but is it almost a good thing sometimes because you've been up for so long and get it out of the way and refocus, I suppose? Or?
Yeah, I don't think you ever want to lose, probably by not that margin. But look, it does open up a lot of things and you learn a lot from your losses. No one wants to lose. As I said, if there had been a couple of kicks, not 50 points or whatever it was, you know, I'd probably accept that a little bit better than the margin. Yeah.
Is there a sense of relief now that the future of the State League has been confirmed?
Yeah, I think so. I think obviously the players sort of talk about a little bit of training and things like that and what they're going to be doing next year. And it's only natural to worry about it. Obviously they want to stick together on those types of things as well. And for coaches as well, it's often a discussion point in, you know, coaches meetings and things like that. But yeah, it's great. I think it's important that we get the right structure in place, and I think TSL's part of that.
What do you think having the Mercury Cup competitions as a like open age, will that help clubs? Like that, will that help retain personnel around clubs?
Yeah, I think it will. So I think from a financial point of view, it's going to help as well. But also, I'm a little bit of a believer that, you know, we have the Merc Cup and it's basically an under-23s competition, and they're playing against. So I just think that, you know, if we have a stronger reserves, then it holds guys at under-18s level and they play together and win premierships, and they do the same at under-16s and they sort of integrate through together. You know, we often ask. Sometimes we've got a 24-year-old that has been through the Mariners system, hasn't quite cracked senior footy, and we're saying that we're tipping him out because he's over 23, but he's a talented player and it's part of our club culture and knows what, you know, has those strong values that have been, you know, invested in over a number of years. So I think it actually will, and I think it will strengthen up the juniors as well. Because then you can go out and target players from SFL level that might take a little bit more longer, or if you've got a toy, you can invest more time in him, and you can sort of hold those younger, more talented players that aren't quite ready at under 18 level. Sure, you don't have Jack Rewald and those guys that are just too good for that and they'll play senior footy straight away, but I think for the kids that aren't quite there, you can hold them in your club longer. We've had a number of players over the last 5 years that played Mariners footy, didn't quite get there, didn't get drafted, not playing footy anymore, not playing PSL footy. So I think you can hold them in your club for longer. It means that you'll retain those players for longer periods of time. Clubs will end up stronger.
Changes for this week?
James Holmes will be available for selection if he gets through training tonight, so that's good. Keegan Wiley's a chance to come back in. Tyson Hanslow was good in the development. Harry Richmond was okay. Kieran Howard was really good. So yeah, we've got some options there. We're starting to get this back together, which is exciting. So over the next few weeks, we'll have a lot of, I suppose, higher end talent coming in.